Okay, good evening, guys. Welcome to Process Guide. Welcome to CSS. This is CSS 101. This is the first class in CSS. So ideally, we use the process that we normally use, which is you guys will go through the video, and after that, we will take on questions from the feedback from the class. So what I want to do now is to let me present my screen. Let me make my screen visible. So you should be seeing my screen right now, and this is the first class on CSS, and it's called Simple Selector. Before we get into that, let me send you guys a link in the group so that you guys can review after today's class. So let me send that. Okay, so let me take you through what today's class is all about. CSS is cascading style sheet, and the idea is for you to be able to beautify your HTML with CSS. CSS is used to beautify your HTML. So the HTML that you've designed all this while, you're supposed to use CSS to design it. So let's go ahead and start. We're going to be covering few things here. What we are focused on is simple selector. You get to understand what simple selector means as we continue in the course of the explanation of today's class. So we are doing introduction, which is introducing you to CSS. You should watch this video. It will handle all those things. The video is 34 minutes and it will explain this in details, but we're just doing this since it's the first time that I'm introducing you to this course. So we're using this to do like a startup. Okay, so we have what is CSS? I'm going to cover that, and then we have adding CSS to. So let me just start up with that. Let me put this aside and go to the coding environment and do all the definition so that we can get a better idea of what's going on. So these were our old projects. I'm going to remove everything, even though we're still going to need them later. But let's clear this and have a blank slate. So this is our IDE. Let me make that visible. Okay, so CSS is another file extension, just like HTML. CSS is another file extension, just like HTML. But in this case, it ends with .css. So we can just go ahead and we don't need to create a special file for it. We'll just use our normal HTML and bring CSS into it. So I'm going to create an HTML file and say .html just for a point of reference. And as I said, our CSS is also a file that has extension called .css. So meaning you can do a file that has .css at the end, and you can write your bunch of CSS code in here. It's called styling as opposed to coding. So you can put your CSS style here, and that's what this course is all about, teach you how to write those styles. Okay, now that you have your HTML, remember what CSS is supposed to do. It's supposed to apply style to your HTML. So without your HTML, you can't actually add any style. So you need an HTML to be existing or a web page to be existing in order for you to apply a style on it. So let's quickly create something, just something simple. HTML. So we have our head, title, and say first CSS project, and we can go with body and h1 and say first CSS page, and we can do an underline and say, add a paragraph and says this feels good. Now this is a web page. Let's look at how it looks. Let's see the preview. Yeah, pretty straightforward. Nothing so special here. And you know that we can ordinarily style these using style attributes, but we are going ahead now to stop using style attributes. So after this class, you are not supposed to use style attributes again. Never should you use style attributes to actually style any element. You are supposed to style all your elements using CSS property or CSS special implementation, not using style attributes. Now, how do you bring in CSS that is here inside this page? There are 3 ways you can style your page. 3 ways that you can style your page. Style number 1 or method number 1 is by using the style attribute, which we are banning from today. So many people have called me out when they see me using this. Well, they don't know that it's part of the learning curve. You have to learn, style first, then gravitate to you using style in the header, then we're linking the CSS page into the HTML. So we're not going to be doing this anymore. So we've been doing something like this: background, color, black. We've been doing something like this, right? We're not going to be doing it anymore. So this is style 1, the method 1 of putting style or of bringing style into your page. Method 2 is by creating a style element. There's actually style elements. Remember where we're coming from, style attributes. Now what we're doing next is using style elements. So you know what an element is now. It has an open tag and a close tag. So you write style and then you have that sitting right there. And the third way, and then inside here, you write your style that describe what should happen in the body of your HTML. We're gonna go get here. What we're just doing is try to tell you how CSS comes inside HTML. Okay, the last method, which we will not be using, is importing the file which is outside and bringing it inside here. It's more of like linking. So linking the file using the link tag. I think this is called style sheet. Then you have href. So you have to actually write all these, guys. So what this does is you're saying link. A link is part of the header attribute. I'm sure you guys did this, but we didn't implement it. So this is us needing it now. You specify link element. Link also doesn't have a closing tag, or rather it doesn't have open and close tag. It only has open tag, so you close it immediately. It doesn't have content in the tag. And then you provide the rel attribute, which is it then specifies style sheet. You also specify the href. The href is what you are linking, the file that you are linking into this web page, and the file we are linking is a style sheet. And you then need to go and look for the style sheet that you must have defined here, which is called style.css. So you can then bring in your style this way, style.css. This is how you can bring in style using a referencing another document. So these are 3 methods. Method number 1, using style attribute, we'll stop using that. Method number 2, adding style elements in the header section. Method number 3 is using the link elements also to bring in the style that you must have designed or defined inside a whole file on its own. Okay, we're not going to be using this method number 1. We're stopping that now. Method number 5 or method number 2, which is or rather method number 3, which is linking. We're not also going to be using it because it requires us to be changing tabs all around. However, that is the approved method. This method is the approved method for using CSS, because you are supposed to have all these documents separate, but because of me teaching you, it's easier to just show you inside a style element. So whatever you write inside of style element, you can actually put it inside the file on its own and it will work just fine. And we'll demo that just for you to see. So I'm going to keep number 7, that's this method, handy. I'm going to leave it here. I'm not going to remove it, but our focus is here. So you ask me, how then do we style this document? How do we style the body? What is the command, that we need to start adding? For starters, the first command is ability for you to target any part of the document. Ability for you to target any part of the document is called CSS selector. CSS selector is an ability for you to target any part. So look at it now. I want to target the body. That's my intention. I want to start the body to be black and the color to be white. And old method says I just do like this because I'm in the body already. Hey, let me just go ahead and put in the details of what I want to do. But since I'm changing the method, and the method I want to use now is having all the code or all the style inside an element section. Okay, so how do you do that? How do you target body? Very easy. To target body, you just write the word body because it's body we're targeting. We're targeting this body element. To target a specific element, you write the name of the element, followed by what? Followed by curly bracket. So look at it, guys. Nothing difficult. I've not done anything strange. What I've just done is that I introduce the name of the element here. Instead of me now specifying bracket like a tag like this, I didn't do that. I just call it by the name, body. And the next thing I do, I introduce curly brackets like so. So what follows is that inside the curly bracket, that's where I'm going to put the properties, the CSS properties I want the body to exhibit. So remember what I said I want us to do. I want us to be able to specify the background. So I'll go ahead and start typing the properties I want. So I want the background to be what? To be black. And immediately it has an effect. Look at what happened, guys. Do you see what happened at the extreme end? That's a semicolon. That terminates the declaration of a particular CSS property. So I move on to the next thing, which is I want the color to be white. So I go ahead and say color and I put white. And again, I have that set. So what we've been able to achieve here is that we've been able to separate HTML from CSS, right? We'll strip the body, the style part of the body away and make it very lean and easy to read. Now this is method 2, like I mentioned, using the style element. Now, if we want to use the reference or linking method, we have to take everything inside here. I'm going to cut it out. I'm going to cut it. So I've copied the code out. So whatever you write inside your style, you can actually write it inside your CSS file. So I'm going to open a new CSS file, which is here, is blank and is, nothing is there yet. So I'm going to repeat the same thing I wrote here. So look at it, guys. Immediately I paste those things there, the command, what it's supposed to do. This is what they call selector. Immediately I put it here, it implements the change that needs to happen. So that is what is happening, guys. So maybe I should break it a little bit so that we can see that. Let me split this one down and bring this one to the bottom so that I can actually maintain different files so that I can see them running differently. So let me remove the style. Like I said, you can use the style or you can use the linking method. So this is me using the linking method to bring in that into the fold. So this body, whenever it comes to CSS, is called a selector. Selector, you want to select the body. So we're supposed to talk about several kinds of selector. So the first selector we're talking about today is, did I cover the introduction to CSS? It really needs no introduction. It's just a way to paint or to make your web page fancy. That's the major need or reason why CSS was created in the first place. So just watch the video I will send to you guys, watch it, and then to give you all the classroom stuff. So this is more like practical, going straight to the point. Now let's go back to the selector. So I've just identified this selector. This kind of selector is called element selector. So we did, let me get that out. So this is selector by name. With selector, this is selector by name, meaning the name of the element is what I used to select it. So what happens if you want to style H1? How do you then style H1? You will use the same method that you used to select body, just by saying body. So if you want to style H1, you use the same method by typing H1. H1 is the name of the element, and that's what you will use. Then you use curly braces and provide the style inside that H1. So all your style will fall in here. So what do you want to say? Maybe you want to make H1 red. Then you do color red. So everything that you've been doing all this while, adding those style to your HTML, you're going to remove that and create a separate document and call it style and do all your styling there. Now, the good thing about this, or the reason why this is a thing, is because imagine we can actually have different styles for one website. One website can actually maintain different styles, and that makes it very flexible, and that makes your site dynamic. Imagine if you design a structure and you can just change it at will. So look at the house, for example. You know, you can paint a house any color you want, and then the next year you can decide that, I want this house to be changed to something else. You know, so that's the benefit of having those things in place. Okay, let's move on to other forms of selector. So this is just selector by name. We also have selector by ID. We have selector by class. So I will not go into details of other forms of selector because this will be repeating the class that we already have. It will only be repeating what we've already done in the video. So that will be today's summary. Do you have any other question?